Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Align with Lina. In today's episode, we're doing a little bit different. We're recording it on Zoom and it is November the 30th. So this episode will be posted later on in the day. But still, I have an amazing guest. So whether it's live or Memorex, for those of you who might remember what that is, Zoom, I love to bring people who I know are going to inspire you into realizing that every single one of us is on a journey. We're on a journey to align to something greater. Here in Align with Lina, I just bring you guests who will share with you how they come to align with the source within. No matter what they call it, really does not matter. That source knows what it is. What we call it is irrelevant. So for your inspiration today, I brought a friend, Leslie Carlen. Leslie, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you so much, Laina. I'm really excited for our conversation today. Thank you.
Well, it's going to be a lot of fun. I've only known you for a very short period of time, and I just love your spunk, your energy, your yeah, just your passion. And we don't get to be expressing our passions that way if we haven't done some work to align with that passion. So, let me just start with where we do with everybody and tell me, when did you begin to realize that there's more to life than what you were taught is what life is all about?
So that's a question that kind of has a lot of points of origin for me. I more have like these specific instances where it's like, why did I go deeper? But from as far back as I can remember, I've been on this quest. And I knew I was adopted from an early age. So I do think there's a part of me that when maybe I didn't fit in or see things the way that everybody else saw, I was like, I could create this phantasmic origin story. And I have a pretty incredible imagination.
That's pretty awesome.
So then, with that said, you incorporate things like sci-fi. It's like, oh, maybe I'm off planet. Then you start doing research, like thank goodness for the internet. So then it's like, oh, star seeds. Oh, what? There's a word for this. Other people feel this way. So that's one part of it. I also grew up in a military household where both of my parents were in the service. So we moved a good amount of time, and I never really created a lot of those formative relationship bonds with like my family, even for that matter. Everybody was localized, and then we would move around. Um, and then friends, they're coming and going. So it's like you really understood, like on base, man, you just accept people for how they're coming and who they are. And it doesn't matter if it's, multiracial household or whatever are like people's stigmas. So that already is kind of like a whole different community and way of thinking, And then it's like, even though I have this like Catholic background where I was baptized, like I think I like to joke and say that I'm definitely okay on the other side since I've been like baptized in every tradition. But there's just always been sort of this quest, like, okay, this information is not quite accurate, doesn't feel quite right. What else is out there, And then like I used to lock myself in the library at school and like read like Greek mythology and things like that. So if you're already thinking about things in terms of mythology and symbolism, and you can see kind of like the correlations, it already again is like another way of thinking that, to me seemed just natural and normal. And there was this whole thing like, what, other people don't think like this? Again, I say thank goodness for the internet, because we're like, we're not alone.
I know. I feel the same way. Well, no, but I love your answer because, and I love your little kitty back there who's entertaining us. So cute. I love your answer because it just speaks to that no matter where we are on the planet, no matter our circumstances, there is an innate curiosity. And for some people that just kicks in very young, especially because of your circumstances, being adopted. And for other people, it just kicks in later. Like for me, that real curiosity about where did I come from? There's got to be more to me than just what I touch and taste and feel. There's got to be more. And that didn't happen for me until I was in my early 40s. So tell me a little bit about, I have a child that I adopted, and my family, we adopted him. My kids were part of the adoption, and my husband, we came together as a family to adopt a sweet, sweet boy. He was 5, almost 6 at the time. And so I have just such a tender heart for parents, number one, who'd be willing to adopt, and then number two, for a being that chooses to go through the process of adoption on this planet, as you said, a starseed. And because we are all from the stars, and there are so many stars, we're from different stars, and little do we know about the magnificence of that bigger plan. But as somebody, let me start with somebody who is adopted. What did you begin to create in terms of your persona or your identification once you found out that you were adopted? Or at what age did you find out you were adopted?
That's not something that my parents kept hidden from me at all. So that's, again, something that I sort of always knew as far back as I can remember.
Okay.
And I will say my parents were really beautiful in that regard, that they had this whole thing about like adopted children are chosen. And so, I did have that feeling of being special, right?
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of children get, so.
Oh, that's sweet. So then when you realized, when your mind was at a mature level to realize adoption, and you also had this very imaginative aspect to you, what were you believing was the part of adoption inside of the bigger plan of a star seed?
Oh, no, that's a good question. That's curious. Like, sometimes, you might contemplate things, but until you have like a word to form around it, it's like, well, I never looked at it like that. So, well, I shouldn't say no. So you're asking. Part of like the research, right? Like astrology, right? Early on would say that we chose to come in at a particular time down to like a science, right? Like, so you could get these particular influences. So kind of already following like that line of, study, it's like, okay, we chose our parents, we chose our experiences to a degree. And I would say I was kind of young. I mean, I don't know if I was like grade school or whatever, but certainly by high school and things like that. There was this like, okay, I was placed here for, this purpose. We're all trying to find our purpose. And it's like, okay, all these things are supposed to be like helping to make me more aware of that. And I think something about that was like to be, I don't know, this is going to sound cheeky, but to be like a state and source of love, right? Because like I'm kind of, I mean, I'm not going to say like I'm out there in my family, but it's like, oh, Leslie, she's lovey-dovey, Leslie. I mean, no one's ever said Pollyanna, but I would think that would be like what they would think of it as, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, totally.
I missed a lot and overran a lot. And it's like, no, okay, well, I'm here to hold this and to be some sort of glue. I don't know what kind of glue that is, but I just know I just need to be that.
Isn't that beautiful? So as the glue, we'll just use that particular word, as the glue, what does that feel like for you to have the awareness that you're here to hold things together?
That has its challenges, right? That can be a little trying. It can get a little like, why is me? That victim mentality. Whoa, why? Because it doesn't make it any easier. Like, okay, great, I'm the glue, but like, I just got stepped on. Now there's that dirt still left on me. Like if you see gum like that, just thinking gum or glue, like on the side of the road. It's also very empowering, if there's this whole aspect of and I think there's a fine dance here too, where it's like, or what I've had to learn through is like, I'm also not here to save anyone, right?
Bingo.
And
yeah.
I think there's a big pressure that comes with that, where, where I certainly would get into like, oh, I'm the one who's here to be the glue. I need to do this. They need to see this and all of that. Like now I say, in 2020, like who I am now, like, okay, that's me trying to control the situation instead of just allowing it. Now, certainly I've never understood that, like at a younger age. That's something I'm
Yeah.
still struggling with, or dancing with. But it's that blessing, that curse kind of thing. And I know it can be like a neutral Zen spot. I'm working my way there.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's work our way there, because I see it very much like that in many ways. When I began to realize that every single one of us is an aspect of the divine. Again, it doesn't matter what we call it, but we are made of this substance that is loving, that is that's one. It's one with everything. There's no division to that which is consciousness, source, spirit, energy, whatever you want to call it. But there is an awareness that begins to happen in the mind. And I've watched this over my 14 years of coaching people. As we begin to become more self-aware, we begin to realize that we have a very important role. I'm a student and a teacher of A Course in Miracles, and it says that we are the light of the world. So to me, that glue is the light of the world. It's what holds everything together, because light is what everything is made of. So the other side to that coin is, how can we be the light of the world? How can we hold things together in a way, but not take responsibility for it from a, well, if I don't rescue you, you're doomed perspective? Because as the light of the world, everybody has the exact same power. And when we honor that we all have the same power, who's saving who? Who's there to be the victim to anybody as a bully? Because in consciousness, there is only the awareness of equality. So as the glue of the world, we are here to connect with one another, to help support and uplift and collaborate, co-create with one another. From that place of awareness, we are equals. But when we go unconscious, this idea that I'm the glue, that I'm the one holding it together, becomes an egoic sense of superiorness or inferiorness. Somebody's got to hold me together. Somebody else that's the light of the world or the glue or whatever needs to pick me up. So it is a fine line that we're going to travel for a while, until we get really clear that until we rest in equality, I find until we rest in equality, we're not honoring one another, because that is a necessary ingredient for being an example for each other. Like Jesus taught, like Buddha taught, like Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr. taught, that we really are equals. And the only way to operate from that place is through love. But it's not the love of this world. So share more with you when you recognize that you're not here to be the one that saves, other people, be the savior of others. How do you feel your alignment with your truth that allows you to extend that to them as well as their truth?
When was I? Probably right now, because like as we're talking, I'm sitting, and I guess that should be the case. And every now and moment, I'm getting more information that ultimately should be, ideally, bring me back into that space of equality, right? Like even as we were talking about this glue metaphor, I'm sitting here like, yeah, I'm identifying as the glue, but what if it actually is all glue? Right? Like, and then it's
yeah.
pop-ups, people coming through, and it's like, it's not even so much about this I am as much as surrendering that I back into that state of just pure being, right? Where like literally just living as your pure authentic self is the example. That is the gluing, the is ising, as I say, right? Like it's just doing its thing, but that dance of always coming back to life, but I am doing something, right? And like so many great teachers talk about, it's about releasing that aspect of the I, being the ultimate observer. There is like, you're just not, floating through this rock ball space.
Exactly.
We're in this world where it also is like, I am is the name of the great creator. Like anything you say, I am, comes to fruition, right? So this dance between manifesting and I am creator, and then, but it's all about equality, and there's nothing that I am actually doing. I'm bearing witness to what is happening. Yeah, that's where I'm at as of right now, based off of like where I've been and like what we just talked about. I'm like, oh.
And you know what? That what you just said is one of those beautiful, profound places on the journey where, for me, that being able to navigate through that to get to the place where I am today, where I don't know where I'm going, you know, a minute from now, in terms of my consciousness, is coming to the place of finding the balance of what is the 3D world and what is the higher consciousness, and being able to navigate, as you said, the I am presence. It doesn't have to do anything. It just is. However, it is an I am presence that wants to be what it is in this 3D world, especially now while we're shifting, which is quite the amazing time. I have and I'll get back to 2020 in a second because I want to get your thoughts on that. But for me, being able to navigate the razor's edge, if you will, of the physical world of doing and the non-physical world of being able to navigate on that in a very clear, deliberate, and precise way, is just a space that I'm in right now. And it's a whole lot of fun. But how do you combine the two as you catch yourself moving to the, oh, I'm just going to be, but when you're just being, nothing gets done. And then you go into the, I'm going to do, but I forgot to be. And, you know, so that's how it was for me, zigzagging back and forth while I drove myself insane for a while. But that was just part of the journey.
Yeah. I'm balance is a thing I struggle with, you know, now. Like I talk about the foot in two worlds, and in a way I feel a little different than most people that I meet, but I know not everyone, where it's like, yeah, I'm very much all about the spiritual, that realm. Like that's, like I said, kind of like been my way growing up. It's my physical realm that I probably struggle with, like grounding that, and, you know, having all of the ways that, you know, the steady source of income, just, I don't know, all the things you think about with physical reality, I guess.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
probably, but I also feel like this shift and what we're experiencing now is moving more towards the spiritual side and combining the two. And there are ways coming about that I didn't even know were possible, where there's a combination, and I can see the two worlds merging. And then, you know, that also brings up questions as far as like, what am I trying to achieve or think is success, or whatever I think I need in the physical realm. So like there's always this kind of self-check that I'm dealing with, where I'm like, but is that what I actually want? Or if I'm feeling bad for not wanting it, then why would I say that I wanted that? You know, like, and having to question a lot of these sorts of things. So I think we're at this space where there's just so much potential creativity, like in this like collective cauldron, that as we're all connecting and forming these relationships and these unions and sharing authentically our stories, like, you know, this whole virtual aspect is pretty dope. Like, I mean, we're kind of forced to be like face to face with people, you know. I was like, I'm probably picking up more energetically just by doing this with people than I do like in aura, just because it's like the face doesn't lie, the eyes don't lie, you know. So right now I'm dancing with it. I really don't know. Like, oh, and also I study this system called the human design system. And there's this whole aspect about like our energy types and how we deal with one another energetically. And my type is considered a projector. So it's here to like guide, but it's not really here to have like that momentum to be like working and doing. So when that came into my life like 2 years ago, I was like, oh, that's the answer. That's what I struggle with, the physicality. But either way, I would say all of that is still supports me, and probably the tape that I have running in my head is like, this is a time of shifting. You know, I don't want what the old world is showing. I said it's like crying over spilt milk when you're lactose intolerant. And I'm like, I don't even think I want that world. So why am I like struggling to be a part of that? Like,
I'm
why
not,
create it
I'm
new?
not, I'm not lactose intolerant, and I'm not crying over that spilt milk of, pre-2020, not at all. I am completely okay with all of that going away. No, but what you're saying is, it makes perfect sense. And it is when we begin to feel our way into these realms of non-physicalness, because frankly, the average person, it sounds like you had a wonderful opportunity at a very young age to allow yourself to imagine into those realms. But for many people, especially my age, those things are taboo. I grew up Catholic, and in my Catholicism, there was no room for that kind of thinking. And I grew up Catholic in the Dominican Republic, and our sister, well, we shared one island. The Hispaniola shared an island, the Dominican on one side, Haiti on the other side. And Haiti was known for its practice of voodoo. So we were not allowed to think or talk about anything that was spirit or unseeable or magic or anything like that, because that was outside of what Catholicism permitted for us, good Dominicans to follow. So it wasn't until, like I said, after my mom passed away, that I began to question things. And that's when the whole unseen world opened up to me. And that's when I began to realize that if I really wanted to know what I was, I had to explore the unseen world, because what I am is a point, like a tiny little grain of sand in the whole of, not even this freaking planet, but in all of the planets combined, all the oceans combined. And I realized that it was really important for me to get out of my physical limitations. And I got really curious about, well, if I am not confined or defined, what am I? And that sent me on an incredible journey. But it sounds like you had more of that opportunity to imagine yourself as undefined when you were younger. So now, of course, in a world of doing and being and budgets and deadlines and goals and achievements and blah 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 blah, how can you be undefined when you're confined by goals and budgets and agendas? So that becomes, to me, an area of mastery while we're on this physical planet. And you're talking about the shift that we're in the middle of. Where do you see things shifting to that feels in alignment with your inner being?
Hmm. Oh, that was. Hmm. I guess. Okay, that was a lot, and like there was so much I wanted to tell you. Oh,
Sorry.
no, don't know. It was good. It was juicy. You're so right. I guess how I see things shifting that's in alignment with where I'm at is, well, I guess let me start. I see this as an abundant universe, and I think that there is more than enough, right? Like whatever you really and truly want to do, there is a community out there for that wants that will engage with that you can be in harmony with and thrive. I see things moving more in that regard, not being so large, corporate dominated, um, trying to get everything. What's the word that I'm trying to look for? But everything just the same, right? And so, but I see the work as being, we all need to kind of come clear with who we are and what are our wants versus this is my dream because that's what someone said was what I actually wanted. So as that happens, I see this like revolution of people just being authentic and being okay to not engage if they don't want to, or to engage when they want to, following their sacred yeses and really seeing what this game is about. Like, I mean, at the heart of it, I feel like there's a really divine plan of like incredible perfection, and everything always works out.
Totally.
And it's down to like the most like crazy degree of science or whatever way you want to look at it. It's definitely mind-blowing.
Yes.
So kind of being like, what happens if we step back and allow that to do its thing? Like nature doesn't struggle to grow. Like what? And I think things will still be created, and there'll be new innovations, and people will take things like the environment and your fellow man into consideration, because I think at the heart of it, those aren't really things that we have issues or we're against, but it's gotten so manipulated that that's how we're so divided. So I guess I hope that answers your question, but that's like my utopia future.
No, and I totally feel that utopia, the potential of that utopia is definitely here. What I believe, like you were saying, we've got to get comfortable with two things. Is one is look at how we have blocked ourselves from expressing what it is that we prefer to do, and get really honest about why is it that I'm not living my dream? Why am I living your dream, mom or dad or grandpa or whoever, societies? We've got to get comfortable with that question. Why am I not living my dream? And the other side to that is the recognition that so has the world. The world has not been living the dream that is in its heart when it has been conditioned to operate from greed and selfishness. So that is the egoic construct of living from our darkest potential. And I feel that we have completely, on this beautiful planet, exercised our fullest, darkest potential. And now we've done it. It's boring. It doesn't work for all of us. And it's time to graduate and let's go to the next level of growth. But to go to the next level of growth, we have to see what no longer works. Do you follow the teacher Abraham Hicks?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the contrast, the darkness that we have operated under, the making other people successful, the doing it for you, not for me, the martyrs, the victims, the bullies, all of that doesn't allow for equality. Been there, done that. We have the 3D t-shirt to prove it. And now it's time to shift our attention to how can we express ourselves and live from our potential, which is infinite. And to me, I cannot wait. I cannot wait for all of the magnificent things that I see coming, but not until we move through the closure of the old ways. And that could take us a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades. I don't know how long it's going to take us for us to be done with those kinds of dense systems. They've got to collapse. Well, we're watching them collapse. How do you feel when you watch the world and you see that, for some people, they think the world's gone mad, but what do you see when you look out there?
Ooh, I definitely, I feel like, so this was a concept, again, stuff's all coming to the one at this point. I was really contemplating heavily the past, several weeks, the concept of faith forged by fire.
Mm.
And I think early on with this year, my attention did get diverted and, red pilled all over the place. And I thought I was pretty much on the level, right? Like I already knew some of these things, but my awareness got dropped. Kind of to the earlier question, it's like, yeah, you have these points where it's like, yeah, I thought I was doing all this spiritual stuff, and then boom, life happens, someone dies, something new comes in. I was like, whoa, I didn't even know I felt these depths yet, and I thought I was going there. So earlier on this year, I went into like next level dark night of the soul. But as I've moved with the energies of this year, I really am at this space of like, okay, I'm really being tested on what I actually believe. I can't say that I believe that this universe is so grand and perfect and down to the, like everything I just said. I can't say that and be feeling the way that I'm feeling right now, or looking at the world and feeling the way that I'm feeling. Like those two points of view don't match up. So something's got to give.
Yeah.
And, the former makes sense. I have tried and tested it. So it's felt like, okay, this is where it's really being tested. This is, can you look in the face of what you were thinking were illusions? Yeah. And still say that's an illusion, despite it really hitting on so many levels.
Yeah.
So I am at this space now of being at peace and almost, and not almost, but hopeful, right? Because some of these things have to collapse in order for the new to be birthed. And right, anything worth doing does require time. And you know, what is a year or like 10 in the grand scheme of it all?
In
Like,
eternity. Exactly.
Exactly. If we're, like you were saying, if we're just this little blip, then like what's time, right? And then as you study this stuff, it's like, oh, time is another illusion in another dimension. And you're like, okay, so I can't believe anything except what's actually in my heart. And because I do follow, you know, the teachings of Abraham and, you know, just the universal laws, it's like, okay, what I'm seeing, it more becomes like, so what I deal with now is more a question of my focus. Am I continuing to look at that energy of what I no longer want, or am I going to focus on communities that are building me and lifting me? And I'm like, but I see a new world here. I know what you're trying to show me. And I mean, I really do feel, I really do. I say my prayers and I burn my inside, like, you know, and I don't mean it like cause. I really feel and embrace, you know, what is the reality for a lot of people. And I don't want to be dismissive of that. But at the same time, I'm like, it's also motivating me even more to focus on my dreams and my goals. Cause like, I know, like, it's almost like it has to work out at this point. I can't retreat and go back. Like, it has to work. So it's just asking me to surrender even more, put more of my focus there.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm dancing with it right now.
No, I love that. And that faith forged by fire that you were talking about. What I have found for me is that, like you, there's a clarity of what is possible that I have been blessed with, receiving more and more and more of what's coming. Not in details. I don't know who's going to be the in charge of whatever. I don't know lottery numbers. I don't know things like that. I don't know exact dates that things are happening. But what is very clear is that the creative source of all that is loving, is creative, and it is expanding. What I'm observing in the 3D world is everything that is opposite. It's not loving, it's not creative, it's actually collapsing because it's falling under the weight of its own repetitive photocopying. It's like a Xerox every day. It's the same old thing that no longer expands. So it has to collapse to give way for what is expanding. So when I look at what's coming, it's really absolutely beautiful. But nobody can cross that veil without the faith that is required and forged by fire. To me, what that means is you cannot, you absolutely cannot. And this is where I see so many spiritual people are getting stuck. And I know because I got stuck there until I was able to unstuck myself. But the thing that we have to look at is we have to make a decision to stand in the fire of truth. We have to let everything that is unlike love, unlike truth, unlike infinity, it has to burn away from our consciousness. We have to let go of anything that is limiting, because for a star seed to be able to expand, to continue on its journey of expansion, it cannot operate inside of a contraction. And that's what 3D was. Now 4D, 5D, whatever more Ds we're going to expand through. And I don't care how many more there are. I just want to get through 4. Just let me get through this bridge that I'm on. I'm walking away from 3. But it is faith, unshakable faith. You cannot have faith in your ego mind and fears and have faith in God's mind and perfect love. Those two are opposite frequencies, which is so much of what Abraham teaches, that we're like a monster with 2 heads. And we've been used to dealing with the egoic head. And now we're being asked to really create the faith that will give us evidence of what we believe, as opposed to the faith that we've been taught is have faith in what you see. Have faith in the job, then you know you're secure. Have faith in the government, then you know you're safe. Have faith in the money, then you know you're worth something. Have faith in the spouse, then you know you're lovable. Have faith in, you know, the being on person of the year, then you know that you are somebody. having faith on the externals is what we have to burn. And it's not an easy process. Absolutely not.
No, it's like I find it curious because I know like in the world, right? So many people are using this phrase like believe in science or they don't believe in science. And I'm like, okay, but and I think it's just such a great example because it's like, yeah, science is beautiful. It helps us organize our reality. And there's a lot like, yes, all of these things were built upon from, these understandings. And yet we also know that those are never like the only understandings. As we continue on, more things are discovered. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, that worked for that. But like, here's another, model or another way that fits in the science, but it's not like there's a truth that's even bigger and beyond that. And stepping into that fire of truth, as you're saying, you're absolutely right. It's everything. And it's not for the faint of heart. But we're coming together.
Yeah. And I think that's where I see the distinction between the commitment to go all the way and those who are just dabbling. I dabbled my toes in spirituality for a long time. I stuck my foot in for a long time, and I put both my legs in for a long time, but I didn't dive in until the last couple of years when it became very clear to me that I could not go around saying that I trusted God, that I and the Father are one, and look to the outer world to be my supply. Now, that does not mean that I am not in constant communication with God, and God gives me, okay, well, contact this person or take this thing or go to this nutritionist, maybe take this medicine if that's what I feel inspired to do. But it comes from a very peaceful place that doesn't make anybody wrong. It's just me connecting to the glue that holds everything together and grabbing whatever it is that I need within that glue. But it's very different from people who say, yes, I trust God, and then out of fear, go out looking for the thing that's going to make me better, that's going to make me well, that's going to promote me, that's going to make me safe, because that is a denial of the peace of God that's available inside of us. And that to me is that faith that you're talking about, that you've got to go through the fire. Share an example of something that you went through that helped you realize that you were cultivating that faith because you forged it through a specific fire.
Oh man. Oh man. Like, that's like, I find the most recent thing. Do I don't know, because I was thinking too as you were talking, there's this aspect of it's, and I guess I would go more recent just because this is where I'm at right now, like in terms of even like understanding this or understanding this, right? It's a radical, it's a radical faith. Like, I mean, it's listening and heeding every small inclination. It's every small intuitive hit.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely have a lot of examples of not following it, right? Like,
Ditto.
Like, I mean, and even down to simple things like, just tapping in and listening to your body if it doesn't want something, not because of a diet or just like my body does not agree with coffee right now, right? Like I was born in Seattle, like my body loves coffee. What you talking about? That's in my blood. And then having like feeling in my body that little, because these vibes are so subtle, right? Yeah. So it's a matter of like jumping in even more hardcore. Like it's easy to follow the billboard sign 444, but then when it happens, it's like, oh, what am I supposed to be paying attention to? Oh, another email. Let me go pay attention to that. So, I don't, there's so, I'm trying to think, well, oh, there's so many. I'm so hard. I'm sorry. I'm like, stalling.
No, I get it. I totally get it. We can just talk about that whole coffee thing. I have been getting nudges about shifting my diet in a way that I never imagined. And a couple of years ago, I just could not eat red meat anymore. And just all of a sudden, it's just cannot eat it because I am more attuned with a very subtle request now from my body. And I still have a couple of things that I know I eventually want to let go of, whatever that might be. Excess of chocolate, it's not that I eat that much, but sometimes I love it, but I don't need it this kind. I could use another type that might be better for me. Maybe not so much sugar in it or whatever it might be, but my body is really giving me signals, to the point that just eating even a little bit of turkey during the holidays, there was something inside of me that was saying, this is not your frequency anymore. And it's not a judgment on what is outside of me. Alcohol, I was never a big drinker. I grew up with an alcoholic father, so for me, I went the opposite direction. I was going to do the opposite of my dad, but I was still a social drinker. So a margarita or two when I would go out on weekends, Friday, Saturday night. So I could have 8 margaritas in a month. Then it just became lesser and lesser. Now it's just the thought of ordering it. There's something that gets triggered inside of me that says, but that's not your frequency anymore. Because now everything is shifting for me to frequency. It's not about right or wrong. It's everything is neutral. It's just frequency. Does it feel enjoyable, or does it not feel enjoyable? If it feels like it's a suppression of my essence, it's not enjoyable. If it's an expression of my essence, it is. I don't need alcohol to express my essence anymore. I did that in my 20s. Now, expressing who I am from a place of listening, to a guidance is a lot more enjoyable to me than suppressing the truth of who I was, drinking alcohol, and then expressing myself in a way that I could hear what other people thought of me. It's just a big shift from the outer to the inner. And it's been many, many little, trial by fires in so many different ways. And that's just a tiny one. But that's we all have to go through that. We all have to go through that physical attunement. So I get it about the coffee.
Thank you for sharing all that. I feel too like it's a matter of and trusting, because to like the drinking example, or like to a lot of the things that people are like, will be like, we know we shouldn't overeat or do this or do all of our shouldn'ts, right? It's there I've learned that it's usually to cover up something else, right? Some other emotion. Yeah. And as we eliminate those things and fall into that alignment and that trust, it's like we have to trust what comes out of my mouth. Like, might not have been the thing that I thought was going to be super impressive or sound really cool, but it's going to be what like source needed to come through. And I don't know what seeds those are going to plant or what that's going to trigger for someone else. And that's the unfoldment. That's the thing that like has nothing to do with any aspect of my control, and getting into that space of that trusting and knowing. So, dancing with that and learning to listen, because I do think it's subtle. And I think the other voice of the mind is kind of loud and convinces me.
But what you were saying earlier when we started talking about being the glue, to me, that's what this journey is making it really clear that when I operate from a sense of frequency, I am actually operating inside of the glue of source that holds everything together. I'm just playing my part, and I am not looking for anything external to validate it. But the only thing that pulls me out of that is listening to that egoic voice, listening to that, which is so much, it just gets so much more quieter once you learn to listen to the voice for God. That thing can't pull you, not for very long. Those thoughts come and they arise, but they just don't have that power, because I don't like suffering anymore. I know what joy and peace feels like. So I can't be distracted with temptations like I used to now. But to be that glue for source, it is to hold everything together with love and not need to be swayed by what anything thinks about us. And when you were saying, let whatever comes through your mouth come through your mouth, sometimes nothing comes through my mouth. Sometimes things come out of my mouth that like you were saying, it's not what I thought I would have said, but the trust that the glue that holds all of it together has a purpose for that. Now we get used as instruments. And to me, that's one of the coolest things. I was listening to, have you ever heard Cryon?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess.
Okay. I was listening to Cryon, one of my favorite channels, been listening for a very long time, and it has helped me really fully expand my awareness of the magnitude of what we are. And I was listening to something just this morning, and Cryon was saying, you people don't understand that the reason we create you in all these different shapes and sizes and is because your bodies are instruments that produce a certain frequency. And your shape, your size, your vocal cords, the way your skin is, all of it creates a frequency. And we communicate based on these sounds that we put out. We're not just created this way for the heck of it. There is an important purpose to our body vessels and to our instruments. And I was like, wow, there's now it's not about what people think about what I look like, but God created me this way because that's the way the note that comes out of Laina sounds. Is just really, really exciting. And to me, it goes back to that glue, that orchestra that we're all part of. So you started that whole glue thing. I like that.
I love that you're ending, or I don't know if we're ending, but like that this is about the music reference, because as you were talking, I was like musical instruments, right? Like, and then that's where you went, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. So see, this is where I would say following like those breadcrumbs, it gets me to moments like this. So that's why it was also hard to give an example, because I'm like, these are the things that light me up, where I'm like, oh, I was thinking that, and this is what you're talking about. And I remember when I did this little poem about like being a symphony, and it's true, like we are a note and we are a song. And earlier today, I was looking at these cards. My friend did a birthday reading for me, and my card for November was make music. And I was sitting here reading it like an hour or two ago, like, well, I guess I sang. I don't know how I really made music. And then the universe is so funny. Here we are on the last day on this eclipse and this full moon, and it's all coming together about like everything that I'm learning and coming together. It's like, yes, be your instrument, be your note, be your sound, be your frequency. You can't you can't even try to compete with another sound. Like that just doesn't even make sense. So I'm like getting all tickled and like lit up about looking at it like this right now.
It is beautiful because those signs are everywhere. Oh my goodness, they are everywhere. They're so supportive. It's really, I used to pay attention to the road signs. Now I pay attention to the God signs. It's not only is it more exciting, but they're more accurate, more trustworthy. So what is something that you're doing for yourself right now that is indicative to you that you are cultivating, you're bringing onto this planet, the new earth, that you are building something that is part of the new consciousness?
Oh, just that? What? No. Well, so I guess simply, practically, I do think that I'm here as a voice, and so I'm playing with a blog and a YouTube channel and sharing bits of me in that sense, and engaging with others who are on that frequency, right? Like, because I'm not for everyone, no one's for everyone, kind of a thing. So I have this idea for like a moon calendar geared towards women and business and connecting our cycles and things like that, and just how we create. So I'm playing with that. I'm in this amazing group that's bringing sacred economy into the world,
Yeah.
So looking at transforming the entire financial paradigm for folks who are trying to feel and be that way and like have community. And just being in a lot of love and gratitude. I think as I'm in that space, there's more of the allowing and the aligning that just happens on its own. And whatever source has designed for me to ground into the world, if I'm just assured that I'm listening to all those little uniwinks and little nudges, I'm going to be in my right place at my right time for that right idea, for the right people. So I'm hoping to ground that and be an example that you all can do it too. We all can. It's so exciting. It's magic.
It really is. And, that sacred economy that we're both in, isn't it beautiful to watch people who don't know each other necessarily, one or two might know each other, come together in a collaborative way to build the community so that all can share equally. It's just magical, absolutely magical. And I am so grateful because that's how I got to meet you, that we both said yes to something that is, to me, it's going to change the way the world operates, because until we get back to that equality, we're not allowing the glue that holds us together, which is love, to do its part. And we cannot function as optimally when we are not inside of a space where we feel loved unconditionally and trusted. And it's amazing. Well, sweet Leslie, this has been a beautiful conversation. I would love for you to share just your last little bit of wisdom, a nugget that you would like to leave with the audience that is going to be blessed by hearing your words of wisdom today, or any other day, because this will end up on my podcast, so it'll live on forever.
Oh gosh, no pressure. I would just say, vibes up, be true to you, not to sound cliche, it like literally is everything. And I truly love you, namaste.
Oh, that is so beautiful. Well, thank you so much for sharing this time with me and participating in this conversation. It's always so juicy to talk to anybody who is willing to move out of the old ways and open up to the new ways, because it's really exciting what's coming and we don't know. To me, excites me to no end. So thank you for being part of this beautiful movement and for being in Sacred Economy with us, such a beautiful group of people. And thank you so much, and have a beautiful, blessed day.
Thank you so much, Laina, for everything.
Totally.